Thank you, Dr. Dillman, distinguished members of the ESU faculty and staff, students, and family. What a humbling honor it is to return to the university where I developed my educational foundation for life, in part upon some of what I've learned over the last 25 years since graduating ESU in 1984 and 1986. First and foremost, I'm sorry to disappoint those of you who believe that your commencement speaker today was Chuck Taylor, the sneaker guy. But at least 20 years from now, when someone asks you, who was your commencement speaker, you may actually remember and just say, Chuck Taylor, you remember that guy. So congratulations to the class of 2010. You have much to be extremely proud. You've accomplished many things that no one will ever be able to take away from you, and that's your degree. You've persevered many long, hard hours, hopefully many of them enjoyable as well. And at other times, you've endured both pain, both real and perceived, to start you on your journey in life or continue on. At least you have the opportunity now to go to your supervisor and ask him if you can get a raise, since you now earned another degree. Today I want to focus upon two central themes: relationships and adaptability to change. These two concepts have impacted my personal career, my educational endeavors, my technical and engineering career, my business, and my personal life. And I'd like to start with a small story. It's as if it had just happened yesterday when my father had dropped me off at East Stroudsburg as a freshman. I clearly remember the unpacking my necessities of college life, my Texas Instruments TI-59, a killer 35-watt Yamaha receiver, clothes, and a Farrah Fawcett poster for my wall. I remember looking down upon the parking lot facing Normal Street from my dorm room as my father drove away, and naively thinking to myself, I'm on my own, finally. I'm ready to make a splash. Little did I know at that time, I was really only embarking upon a journey which would instill a lifelong necessity that God had imposed upon me, the need for relationships and being adaptable to change. During my career at ESU, from 1980 to 1986, I recognized that change was sometimes good and sometimes bad. I wasn't an exceptional student. In fact, I was mediocre at best. I certainly remember struggling my earlier years of college, and nothing really came easy for me. However, I was persistent. I spent most of my time working hardest on my computer science courses, but even they were a challenge for me. Yet that was my major, and I knew I needed to succeed there. There truly was a sense of accomplishment whenever I completed a programming problem and submitted it. Ultimately, I earned a B in my first computer science course at East Stroudsburg, entirely out of sheer determination and, quite honestly, many times trial and error. At the beginning of my second semester, my struggles continued. To this day, I very vividly remember standing in my dorm room after struggling to figure out how to begin a new programming assignment that was just released. I broke down in tears because I knew that I was in over my head at that moment. I began thinking about my brothers who were succeeding in their college ventures, one at Rutgers University, another at MIT, and wondering why I was placed last in line for brains in my family. I wonder if God had really placed brain quotas on families and my brothers had beaten me to the front. That day, while sitting in my dorm room, I realized I needed help or I would probably fail out of my major. The following day, I mustered up enough courage to go speak with my computer science professor, Dr. Richard Prince. Looking back, that was a pivotal decision in my life. When I walked into his office, he immediately embraced not only his role as a professor, but as a role model and a mentor. He embraced me as if I was one of his own children, as any father would do. He quickly recognized my distraught state, angst, and stress. He spent the next 2 hours, even after his wife, Dr. Debbie Prince, a professor in mathematics here at ESU, had called him home for dinner. He worked with me until I truly understood the assignment and was able to complete it to his satisfaction. That was one of my first true lessons in building relationships to garner success. Ironically, in the years that followed, from my freshman year, where I barely managed to get a 2.0 GPA, through earning a perfect GPA my senior year at ESU, and my entire graduate education, I began to recognize that relationships were of utmost importance. Professor Prince and I developed a long-standing student-professor relationship and met 7 more times in computer science classes and many more times in his office for special tutoring, until I finally graduated as the first computer science master's degree student at ESU in 1986. Upon completing my doctorate 4 years later, Dr. Prince was one of the very first people beyond my family I contacted. I knew he would be proud of his student. Upon informing him for the first time, he told me not to call him Dr. Prince, not to call him Professor Prince, but rather by his first name, Dick, as he now considered me one of his colleagues. At that moment, I realized I had accomplished something special. What many had doubted, including myself, I had driven toward a dream and lived it out. I had not taken an easy route, but a difficult one. I wasn't interested in living under the guise of others' thinking, but one that I believed in to make my career and ultimately my life more fulfilling. I summoned the help of relationships many times along the way and ultimately accomplished a dream. I offer this lesson to you. Life is too short to live under someone else's dream. Or as Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, Next, and Pixar once said, don't allow the noise of others' opinions to drown out your inner voice, heart, and intuition. In the years that followed, I stayed in touch with Dr. Prince, obviously never being able to call him by his first name because that was unnatural. I periodically visit him at the university or send him an email just to say hello. The pulsing of the relationship continued for years, and then one day I sent him an email and realized after a few days he hadn't responded. Puzzled, I probed several friends at the university, and I was sadly informed that he had been hospitalized as a result of brain cancer. Within several months after being first diagnosed, he was taken from us. And I, along with his family and this university, suffered a great loss. Ironically, this graduating class of 2010 was never presented that same gift that I had been. However, perhaps some of you can find your Dr. Prince in your lives or become a Dr. Prince to someone else. In the time after his passing, I began to better appreciate that in order to succeed in life, whether it was business, school, just working with others, or generally in life, relationships coupled with hard work and integrity and a whole lot of luck are what makes us successful. Not one particular widget or financial transaction that you happen to develop or complete. Today I'm in business with my wife, which is wonderful. I can only say that our business is honestly where it is today on an amazing upward, successful trajectory as a result of not only the personal and business relationship, but also because of the many people who have helped us along the way. So thank you, Dr. Prince. The second story I'd like to share with you focuses upon what I call adaptability to change. Before I go too far with you, I'd like to share and remind some of you some of the things that have occurred in our world since I was a student here at ESU. In 1980, when I first entered ESU, IBM had hired 2 gentlemen to create an operating system for a new PC. We know it today as DOS and Microsoft. Today, Paul Allen and Bill Gates, 2 of the most financially successful men in the world, have arguably made the single largest impact on our daily lives. Just think, without computers and technology being standardized, some of the impact. The medical field may not have developed a cure for many diseases. The financial markets may not have become as intensely competitive as they are today. Space exploration would be nearly impossible. Smartphones with texting, video chatting, geolocation services, buying and listening to music on iTunes and iPods would not be part of our culture as we know it today. And the list continues. General communication with one another would be much more disjoint. From a United States government intelligence perspective, the federal intelligence community has a different problem: keeping up with this ever-evolving, fast-paced telecommunications market. In many ways, they would have a much easier job collecting, transforming, disseminating the incredible data mountains which are developed today. To put it in perspective, today, in a simple 8-hour day, the National Security Agency collects the equivalent of over 20,000 four-drawer filing cabinets of all types of multimedia, which has to be distilled, analyzed, reported upon, reanalyzed by some of our most senior government leadership, home and abroad, to ultimately determine if there are actionable events for our military. Imagine a world where no technology problems existed, but then again, imagine a world as the alternative. Continuing on, in 1981, the first space shuttle, Columbia, launched its inaugural flight. In September of 2010, we expect the last shuttle flight, STS-51 Endeavour, human spaceflight, while I personally don't think it'll be gone forever, will take a backseat to commercial and robotic spaceflight. In January of 1984, during Super Bowl 18, the Macintosh was introduced with the infamous hammer thrower commercial. Today, Apple has transformed itself into one of the greatest computer companies in multimedia. The company posted a 2010 second quarter earnings of over $13.5 billion, selling nearly 3 million Macintoshes, 9 million iPhones, and 11 million iPods. Later in 1984, Richard Skrenta developed the first known computer virus, known as ELK. Today, cybersecurity is one of our nation's largest threats to our critical infrastructure, including military, energy, and the financial markets. Our nation today has a budget of over $300 billion to secure our nation from these types of threats. When I was completing my education at ESU, social networking took place at Rudy's Tavern, Floods, and Log Cabin. Today, Facebook, MySpace, LinkedIn, Flickr, eHarmony, YouTube, and many other social networking sites have sprung up all over the internet. To help place this into perspective, reaching 50 million users took radio 38 years, TV 13 years, internet 4 years, iPod 3 years. Today, Facebook adds 10 million users in 9 months. Today, 1 in 6 marriages occurs as a result of online dating. And my favorite, in 1983, the Baltimore Orioles were crowned World Series champions. Today, many of us in Baltimore are just hopeful to get a win sometime this season. My point in raising these historical events is that the world is constantly changing. It occurred long before any of us were here, and it'll occur long after we're all gone. So graduating class, as you continue your careers or embark upon a new career, embrace change. Don't resist it. Too often we have a propensity to resist change because it's foreign or not developed here, or some other artificial reason to not engage in changing activities. This will be stifling to any organization, a business, technology, your career, and the many generations which will follow you. So I challenge each of you, how will the world be changed when it's your turn to be standing where I am today and addressing the class of 2036? And what will you have done to assist in that change? Relationships and adaptability to change. These two very, very powerful concepts will fuel your tomorrow if you allow them. Thank you very much and congratulations. You deserve the best because you got it here at ESU.